everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Thursday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Eric here with AJ in Austin, Texas, checking in for episode number 207. Today is Thursday, February 22, 2018. How's it going, AJ?
It's going well, man. This is going to be our last episode in Austin for a while.
Yeah.
You're heading to Brazil soon. I'm heading to Brazil sooner, so I'm heading out tomorrow. We're recording this on Tuesday night, but definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, man, it's kind of interesting that, I don't know, do you want to just get into it and kind of talk about Abroaders and location independence and kind of returning to our roots?
Yeah, so it's been almost a year that we've been truly based here, the entire core team. We've also had Janelle, who's in charge of our booking service, has been to visit a couple of times. George spent a bunch of time here. Yeah. So we've really been based. This was the first time since we really began the project that we had a single place for more than a few months. For the most part, we had started outside of the U.S. We spent time in Colombia. We spent time in Brazil, Barcelona. All of those were roughly 3-month stretches at a time. Yeah, and then
even sprinkling in, Thailand and Vietnam.
A little bit. I forgot. We spent a fair amount of time in Bangkok and Ho Chi Minh City. So I guess historically, we've been a much more nomadic company and settled down for a little bit. Did the Capital Factory Accelerator program here in Austin. And so that's winding down. We still got a couple of months left.
Yeah, technically our contract, or whatever you would call it, is up in April. That's when we're no longer an accelerator. A company, they owe us nothing.
We've accelerated as much as we're going to accelerate. But kind of excited. So you're going to be spending quite a bit more time in Brazil over the next foreseeable future.
Yeah, unsure exactly how long. I mean, I'm sure there will be a reason for me to come back to the U.S., whether it's a family, friends related thing, or come check in with you and Jake here in Austin. But I'll be in Brazil until I'm not. No return flight, no real plans on coming back anytime soon. So my guess is, at least a couple months, and could be much more.
Yep. But it's been an interesting experiment. So we've definitely set up sort of offices in lots of different places. I think honestly, one of my favorites was our office in Barcelona that we rented some co-working space. We had a pretty cool apartment, but there was no way anybody was getting anything done in that apartment.
The co-working space in Barcelona is one of the coolest co-working spaces in the world when you consider it was in a great location. It had an awesome deck. And if you just hang out on the deck to have a coffee or a beer or something, you're just looking at Sagrada Familia.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant view. And then you can look all the way into the ocean. The leadership at that co-working space I wasn't a particular fan of the people behind it. However, the space was really cool. And I agree with you, man. Barcelona, that was a really good stint. That would have been, a year and a half ago. We spent all the summer there, actually the spring through the summer. That was a good stay.
Really formative point in building the Abroaders app and working on setting people up to try and help us track points and miles and travel plans. So it's really interesting stuff, but looks like going forward, we're going to be a little bit more nomadic as a company. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be here in Austin, or at least as a home base for the foreseeable future. But anyway, so best of luck. Happy travels to Brazil, and hopefully we don't have too much trouble with recording quality. But we'll be doing it from I guess an extra 5,000 or 6,000 miles apart, starting next week.
Yeah, next week I will be recording from São Paulo as you're in Austin. But yeah, man, it was a little over a year we spent in Austin, and now we're kind of getting back to our roots a little bit. It's not necessarily that I have plans to do a bunch of travel, or you do, but we've been based here for over a year and we've never done that before.
Yep. All right. So we got a great show this week. I'm really excited to share an interview that I did with the founder of a company that helps folks get compensation when flights get delayed. It's a really cool model. They also just really recently, a few days before the interview, launched a new offering where they're helping you get a better price for hotels. So if you book a hotel stay and the price goes down, they can automatically rebook you at the lower price. I think it's a really good interview. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. So that's going to be at the end of the show. We've got some interesting news and updates, so a few really useful stories to share with you guys. Top stories this week are we've found a working link for the Citi American Airlines 60,000 point offer. So we've got an Amex card for the Platinum card, a targeted offer at 100,000 points we're going to talk about. A buy miles promo and a couple of rule changes. So interesting stuff in news and updates. And then also I want to share an update on the claims saga that I've had with Chase Sapphire Reserve, and my damaged bags finally got a resolution. So I'm going to share some lessons learned on that. But let's start it out with a listener success story. This one, I wanted to share this at the top because this relates to one of the news stories that we shared. I think it was just last week about Virgin Atlantic's sale.
Yeah, between Miami and London.
Yes. So Eric wrote in and said, thank you for sharing the note about the London to Miami that you discussed this week. He had also heard a previous promotion that we shared in news and updates about the 6,000 points per Avis promotion. Mm-hmm. And so Eric was able to use the car rental promotion to basically be able to take a friend to London with 5 car rentals that were basically paid for by his work anyways. So just as a quick refresher, the 40% discount brings the one-way price between Miami and London down to like 7,500 points.
Yeah, we've never seen anything lower. I think 7,500.
Yeah, and same idea with business and premium economy. So Eric, congrats and thank you very much for taking a minute to write in. Glad the car rental trick worked out for you.
Yeah, 5 times over. That's a nice score. Good on you, Eric.
All right. So we've got a couple of stories. Let's lead off with the Citi American Airlines credit card. We've been talking about this for a long time. The deal was around much longer as far as the official link that was available on Citi's website. Mm-hmm. And as often is the case, many times when the banks change the offer, currently Citi is advertising 30,000 miles after spending, I think, $1,000 in 90 days, which is half of the bonus that we saw from October until very recently. And so just a quick public service announcement. If you did miss out, there is a working link that's still available. Lots of times these will surface a few days after an offer goes dark. And so hopefully this is still there when we go to air. Because you never know. Lots of times somebody's job is to go kill all these links. But as of recording on Tuesday night,
man, I have a theory. I have a theory on why they do this, and it just came to my mind. So for a lot of people that don't know, the credit card companies, Citi, Chase, Amex, whatever, they have a tough time getting people to sign up for their cards. It's really competitive, so they lean on partners like creditcards.com, Credit Karma, the points guy, and then, Abroaders were a partner of creditcards.com. So they lean on these partners to distribute their products, mm-hmm. and they pay for that. And something tells me that some of these banks may have figured out that when they pull an offer, some people, damn it, I wish I would have gotten that. And something tells me they're just kind of skimming, and they say, hell, we can put the link back up. We're to get some signups. We're not going to have to pay the points guy or creditcards.com or Abroaders via creditcards.com or whatever.
And we'll get the remorse of all those people that missed the offer. That's an interesting point. I think there's probably some truth to that. It's not an affiliate offer for us or anybody at this point, but we do have a working link. Hopefully at the time this goes to air, it's still there. So that'll be in the show notes at abroaders.com/207.
Yeah. Next up, what you mentioned earlier is this targeted offer with the Amex Platinum card. 100,000 points. So it really doesn't get much better than that. So the downside of this isn't just some link you can go to and you're guaranteed the 100,000 points. It's targeted, but with the card match tool from creditcards.com, or one of our partners, you can see if you qualify for the 100,000 point offer.
Yep.
So as far as how it works is in the show notes, abroaders.com/207, we'll link to the creditcards.com card match tool. You'll enter your basic info, your name, address, last 4 of your social, and then ultimately you click on the Get My Matches button or Get Matches button, and then it should be less than a minute, and then you'll see if you're eligible for the 100,000 Amex membership award offer.
Yep, this is a really good deal because the offer is only 5,000 spend required. So a lot of times when the Amex Platinum card goes up to 100,000 points,
at least 15
or 20,000.
Yeah, spend spend 5K, you'll get this much, then another 10K, and you'll get this much. And yeah.
So this is a flat rate amount of spending. 100,000 Amex points are easily worth $2,000 in travel. So this is a really good opportunity to get on the card. One other thing that lots of people ask about is that the card match tool does not do a hard pull. So this is not going to count as a credit inquiry for you. It will if you apply for the card, but just finding out if you have the option to is not going to hurt you. It will have zero effect on your credit. So it's what's called a soft pull. They're just checking your information and seeing if Amex is looking for you as the newest Platinum card member. If you're interested, we'll have a link in the show notes as well to a show that we did, episode 202, where we compared some of the benefits of high annual fee cards, including the Amex Platinum, and talked in a lot of detail about what comes with that, so you can decide whether it's a card that's a good fit for you.
Ultimately how that goes in tandem with the City Prestige and the Sapphire Reserve.
Yep.
And each card has their strong points. I wouldn't say that any one of those cards is a bad choice.
No.
Meaning if you have a chance to get the 100K Amex points, it's like double whammy, welcome to the world of extra benefits from your card, and you have at least a couple $1,000s worth of travel. But yeah.
And so if you do use the link in the show notes page for this one, we do get credit. So thank you in advance and good luck.
Yeah, exactly, man.
All right, next up, we've got a improvement to some news we announced last week for the Life Miles, which is Avianca, the national carrier of Colombia. They're a Star Alliance frequent flyer program, and so they've got a ton of great partners. They're notorious for selling miles at rock bottom rates, but now when we say that, that also is the case that a lot of times it doesn't make sense to buy miles unless you have a specific redemption in mind. So we always try and cover that with a lot of detail.
Their pricing is also tiered where in order to get the best rate advertised, you've got to generally shell out around $1,000.
Yep. So we talked about this last week. The bonus was at 125%. So you buy some miles. It's basically like you get a buy one, get two, and there's a little bit of a bonus. But the point of this is that the offer has improved since we talked about it last week. And this is largely thanks to some hustling by the team at 1 Mile at a Time, really great Points and Miles blog. And so they have negotiated a bit of a deal with the Life Miles program where you can actually get up to 140% bonus. So that brings the cost down to, if you max it out, if you buy a lot of miles, it brings the cost down to 1.37 cents per point, which is about as low as it gets for buying Life Miles. So this is a pretty good deal if you have a redemption in mind. The only other major thing to be aware of is that there's a 1-day delay to activate this bonus. So my recommendation, there's no cost whatsoever to registering, which just requires your Life Miles frequent flyer number, and that will make you eligible. You've got until the 27th to register of February, and you've got until the 28th to buy. So if you think there's even an outside chance that you might want to take advantage of buying some Life Miles, you should follow the link in the show notes to the registration page and put your name in the hat. And within 24 hours, they'll send you an email saying that you're good to go. And then you can make a decision, do some reward research, and see if it makes sense to buy.
Yeah, man. Next up, we've got an interesting fifth freedom route.
Yes.
So Emirates is going to do a fifth freedom between New Zealand and Indonesia. So they're going to be flying from Auckland to Bali. And before the show, we were talking about this, how this is kind of interesting where, the Emirates CEO has a quote saying, hey, we're trying to serve the folks in New Zealand and Bali's a great destination. But when you look at the numbers here, 40,000 New Zealanders visited Bali. And New Zealand's a tiny country, so that's like a good share, but it's just a tiny country. So it's kind of a peculiar route going from Auckland to Bali because there aren't that many other instances that people would be going from Auckland to Bali unless they're a Kiwi. It's not like in Europe where we've got people coming from every which way to connect like they do come from Dubai.
New Zealand's got the unfortunate geography of being a little bit out of the way for almost everybody going almost anywhere. It's a great destination, one that I really want to visit, but curious route. The exciting news about this, though, is that it's going to be operated by the 777-300ER, which has 8 first-class seats.
Yeah, so
Emirates has scaled back dramatically on the first class, and so one additional opportunity to try out brand new first class from Emirates. Also a pretty significant business class cabin. So
42.
Yeah.
42 business class seats.
And I would say, I guess the one thing that to me seems interesting about this Fifth Freedom route, Emirates doesn't have a ton of useful partnerships outside of Alaska Airlines. And so if you have Alaska miles, you can book first and business class on Emirates. The prices went up quite a bit roughly a year ago. So it became a little less attractive than some of the other partners that Alaska works with. But there definitely could be some really good opportunities. Mainly the price increases happen from North America. And so if you're just really curious to try out the Emirates product, this could be an interesting opportunity for that.
This flight, I'm trying to think how long it would be, but this is in the range of flights where generally there's a good chance that there's not like an awesome business class or first class, where this is, like the cream of the crop as far as products go, and it's not a terribly long flight.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that basically is going to translate into relatively affordable business class award pricing with Alaska. So a chance, bottom line, a chance to try out one of the elite first class products in the world at a very reasonable mileage price. And the route is supposed to go live June 14th. Airlines are notorious for not being good at predicting these things, but this one seems to be pretty solid. I think they may already be selling tickets. So hopefully the route launches on time.
They've got an incentive unless they want to refund that money.
And by the way, Bali is a super cool destination.
Bali is great. My 2 cents on that for anyone that's considering going there is, do not think of Bali as just a beach destination. And I thought we had a great time in Ubud.
Yeah.
And like Ubud may be a little bit played out, and everyone's, I don't know what the listeners think of it, but it's, I think it gained traction, but it was a super cool kind of place, tiny city, central Bali that was away from the ocean, but I don't know, pretty enchanting.
It was a great spot, man. God, I don't want to direct people back to our very first couple of podcasts, because I think we were a bit green
at the Indigo Tree Hotel, which, by the way, if it's the same leadership, ownership, and these people haven't like completely lost their way, that was an awesome place.
Yeah, that's really cool. Stay if you're gonna check out
with an amazing breakfast. I don't know if you remember those crepes.
I do.
Oh man!
All right, so hopefully. We've got some folks that'll be able to take advantage of that to Bali. The next up is related to Alaska mileage plan. So what seemed to be very bad news came out earlier this week that Alaska was restricting using your miles for award tickets very close to departure, within 72 hours of departure. And so for the most part, most airlines don't stop you from doing this, or most frequent flyer programs don't stop you. There's a few like American and United that charge a pretty heavy close-in booking fee that makes it more expensive in cash to book tickets close to departure. Okay, so next up, we've got a somewhat related story about Alaska Airlines. So their program announced some pretty concerning news earlier this week. This story kind of fell right between last week's show and this week's show, where they said that they were going to prohibit you from booking awards on certain partners, specifically Cathay Pacific, Hawaiian Airlines, and Hainan Airlines, within 72 hours of departure. And the big issue with this is that Cathay Pacific in particular opens up a ton of their unsold business and first class inventory in the last couple of days. So a lot of times with the booking service, what we recommend for folks that really want to fly in first class on Cathay is book business class first and then wait until the last couple of days. We'll monitor it for you. And if Cathay isn't selling those first class seats, they open them up to their partners to book with miles. And so Alaska has some of the best rates. It's cheap, very cheap compared to American and some of other Cathay partners to book business and first class using Alaska miles. And so this was really detrimental news to the prospects of folks waiting for those first class seats to open up. So there's been a really useful update that came just in the last 72 hours or so that they are not going to be enforcing that except for flights within Asia. So intra-Asia flights, you're not going to be able to use Alaska miles super close to departure. But
does that jeopardize changing? So if you book, let's say in business class, and then within 72 hours, you call them up and say, hey, can I change anything? Does that mean you can no longer do that?
So with the most recent update that they're not going to be doing this for flights long haul from the US, everybody's in the clear. Yeah. But I think that was the situation because they're basically saying we are not going to allow partner award inventory on these couple of Asian airlines from being bookable. So that's a big relief. Like definitely we've got like five different alerts set up right now for first class that people are like happy with business, but Cathay first class is really awesome.
Yeah.
So this was a huge bummer when we saw the announcement. And if you've seen any posts on it, you can disregard, because unless you're looking at flights within Asia, you should be in the clear and can book up to, I think there's still a window where it's like 4 to 8 hours before departure, where
makes sense.
they got to create a ticket and like tell people you're coming. You got to get to the airport.
Right.
But with many of these programs, you can book very much at the last minute. And so it's a really, really great opportunity with Alaska Miles that has survived. And I think, I don't know what the reasoning for them pulling back, but this did create some outrage again amongst the Alaska mileage elite folks and folks that are truly loyal to the program. And Alaska, to their credit, seems to be one of the airlines. This is not the first time that they've walked back negative
they
changes.
Seem to be very responsive to their members.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they're a smaller program. They have a reputation of being a friendlier frequent flyer program, and their members are probably more loyal than a lot of other programs. So
that's the
this
thing.
is great to see.
Anecdotally, I do know there's somebody I spoke to about the concierge service, and this guy flies Alaska a lot, and that was his thing. He's like, man, I'm loyal to them. I'm an entrepreneur. They have my business. If they're flying somewhere, as long as it's not like triple the price, like I'm going on Alaska, so keep that.
Put that in the notes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So finally we've got an Amex offer that's a pretty nice one. And would have it been last week or the week before we talked about Kimpton properties?
Yep, it was last week. Yep.
Okay, so what we've got here is we've got a targeted offer on Amex Offers where you will get $60 back if you spend $300 or more at a Kimpton property, which is a pretty good deal where, I mean, if you do the math there, 60, that's 20% discount if you measure it out and you've got like a $300 stay. But another interesting thing about this, and by the way, thank you to 1 Mile at a Time for making us aware of this, is there's a chance, depending on how many cards you have, you may be targeted 2 times for this offer. And if that is the case, the recommendation here is to call them up and see if you can potentially split the billing. So let's say you've got a $650 stay at a Kimpton property. You've got the offer twice. Call them up. Hey, can I, split this charge in half and put, $325 on one card, get your $60 back, $325 on another card. So
great strategy.
Pretty good offer for those that, have Amex cards that are part of Amex Offers. Definitely something to stay tuned into. There's, here and there, there's nothing ever that is major, but consistently we talk about it. It's worthwhile,
Yeah, there's a lot of good opportunities. I check that, at least once a week.
I'd imagine over the course of a year, if you've got a couple Amex cards, over the course of a year, there's probably like another $300 to be found. Like genuinely, not like trying to stretch something and like jam in an offer to your plan, but it's like, I was planning on doing that. Oh, cool, $100.
Right. Yep. A couple other things to mention about this. So this is for stays through May 20th and only at U.S. Kimpton properties. So it's got to be within the U.S. Also, don't forget, we talked about this last week, but IHG, the loyalty program that has recently adopted Kimpton's portfolio into their brand, is offering 10,000 points for any Kimpton stay through April 30th. So that's stackable with this. 10,000 points isn't a ton, but it's enough for a free night at a lot of different Category 2, up to Category 2 IHG hotels. So definitely a good value, and might be a part of your Accelerate promotion as well, which is something I covered episode 206 last week. So you might want to revisit that. I think that does it for news and updates. Do you got anything else?
No, man, I think that is that.
All right. So before we get to the interview, I want to update you guys on my experience with the Chase lost baggage. I kind of just run through all the details in this segment here. So I wanted to share the outcome, which I don't think I did, which is that, and this happened in the last 2 hours, but I finally, after I believe 7 phone calls in aggregate to the Chase people, it was a serious undertaking, but I got my check notification that the check's in the mail. So $224, I believe, I got reimbursed out of my $299 claim. American picked me up for the other bag that they got ruined. So overall, feel like I've been made whole. It was definitely an undertaking, but hopefully you guys will get some value out of this, because I tried to share some of the key takeaways that I had as far as what I would do next time around. And unfortunately, one of them is I'm going to be using my City Prestige card for more travel, because at the very least, if something goes wrong, I'd like to see how their process differs But there's some good takeaways, and hopefully it can help anybody that does have the Sapphire Reserve navigate the process a little bit better and know what to expect. Because it is possible. You just got to be a little bit more persistent. And man, the thing that makes me mad about the whole thing is, that it's like waves on the shore. They're just chipping away like, hey, here's another request for this document you already sent us.
Yeah.
Hey, respond in the next 20 days or we're going to close this out.
Yeah, they try to wear you down.
People just drop off. Anyways, hopefully that's useful, and we'll get to the interview right after that. Okay, so next up, I want to provide a little bit more information on a story that started back at the beginning of January. So this is about the claim that I filed for baggage protection services, and we've produced a fair bit of content about the benefits that come with rewards cards, including insurance. The episode where I kind of started this story was number 200, so if you missed that one, it might be worth going back to just kind of get a little bit better feel for the context and some of the benefits that come with rewards cards. Every claim is different, and I've certainly had my fair share of claims that totally sailed through the process and were really reasonable in terms of the amount of time and effort on my part. However, I also think it's really important that we report on the bad and the ugly in addition to the good. I know you guys look to us for advice about which card to use, which benefits you can count on. So today I want to share an update, I guess, on what's been kind of a rough experience with filing a damaged bag claim with Chase under my Sapphire Reserve lost bag insurance. Now, I covered the initial steps for filing the claim in more detail on episode 200, but I'll give a quick summary here just to catch you guys up and then share what I've learned in the process. So the incident in question was a flight I took from Detroit to Austin on December 30th. American, or perhaps a 600-pound gorilla employed by American, damaged two of my bags pretty much beyond repair. And so the claim that I filed falls under the lost or damaged baggage insurance that's provided with lots of different rewards cards. So first off, I filed a claim with American, and this normally needs to be done in person within 24 hours of when the loss or damage occurs. And then after that, I filed a claim with Chase. You normally have a little bit more time to do that secondary claim. I think normally it's 1 or 2 weeks. Chase, for the Sapphire Reserve at least, lists that at 20 days as your deadline to file the claim. But ideally, you want to start the process at the same time as you fill out the claim form with the airline that lost or damaged your bags, since there's a lot of the same information that's going to be required. Now, the coverage for the Chase Sapphire Reserve card is $3,000 per insured person per trip for baggage, loss, or damage. And the credit card insurance is secondary to the claim with the airline. So that means that Chase pays out whatever American won't cover in terms of my bags. Now, I was actually really surprised with how the claim went with American. It was pretty straightforward. What they required from me was the airline ticket, so a receipt for the ticket, a copy of my itinerary, the baggage claim checks, so the little stickers that they usually put on the back of your boarding pass that have the tracking numbers for the bags that you check with the airline, and a photo ID, as well as the original incident report that I filed with the baggage desk at Austin Airport when I arrived. The final piece of information that American required was receipts for all items that I was claiming that were valued over $150. So these would be the original receipts. Now, in my case, nothing was horribly damaged in the bags. I had a couple of bottles of wine and stuff that were broken, but that wasn't really the major concern. And so the bags themselves were the actual items that I wanted to file for compensation on. Now, the requirement of having a receipt, and this was imposed by American, but it's pretty similar, I think, for most of the other airlines, of having receipts for items over $150 was not something that I could comply with because I did not have the original receipt for the bag. And I'd imagine that's the case for lots of travelers. Maybe you can make a change now, and anytime you buy luggage in the future, you can save that receipt in Evernote or someplace safe electronically so you have access to it in the future. But I imagine many people don't save their original receipt for luggage on the off chance that something happens to that bag and they have to file a claim. So the last item is where the secondary Chase insurance became necessary. Now, I filed a claim for the backpack, which I put the value at about $80. And so American paid out the $80 claim on the backpack. And honestly, they did that really promptly. So I was super impressed with the process from American Airlines. There was one round of back and forth. I filed the claim at the airport, and then I had one follow-up call where I checked on the status of the claim. They got me the form that I needed to fill out, and then I sent it in, and I got an email saying that they would cover the $80 item, but not the $299 roller bag because I didn't have the original receipt, and that was over $150. So for the Chase claim, they required all the same items as I listed for the American claim, but also Chase wanted a proof of the status or the outcome of my claim with American. So in this case, they wanted to see that the $80 was paid out, and they wanted to see that American was denying me for the $299 roller bag. And then the final thing from Chase was they wanted a credit card statement showing that the flight was in fact charged to the card, this Chase Sapphire Reserve in this case, that has the insurance. My experience with Chase was not very good with the Sapphire Reserve insurance coverage. It was not prompt, it was not well organized, and I was asked multiple times for the same documentation that I had already uploaded to the provider's website. So Chase partners with a company called eClaimsLine, or also seems to be called Card Benefit Services. And so I had uploaded all of the information, and it seemed like there was quite a bit of confusion because they kept asking me for things that I knew for sure that I had already uploaded. And so it created a lot of back and forth. There was also a bit of additional confusion because I had changed my original itinerary. So the dates that I flew didn't match the original receipt that I had received from American. Now, what really delayed the process with Chase was, number one, that I didn't get a formal denial letter from American Airlines. I got an email saying that they would cover the $80 bag, and that was pretty much it. And then they sent the check, and that arrived within a week. So everything was resolved from American side, but I didn't get a letter officially on American Airlines letterhead that said your claim for the roller bag is denied. And it was really fortunate that I had a photo of the check because that ended up coming in really being a critical component for Chase to process the claim. So back to the claim with Chase. They informed me multiple times that they would deduct 25% from the amount that I had claimed with American because of the original receipt being missing. So even if you use the credit card insurance, you may end up getting less than the total amount that you're claiming because of not having that original receipt. They also asked me for my itinerary 3 different times, on January 26th, on February 14th, and again, at the time I'm recording this, I have just finalized the claim, but the 3rd time today, they were still asking me for the same document that I had uploaded on January 14th. So that was one thing that was really strange about this process, and my key takeaway here was that you really need to be exceptionally well organized with the copies of the documentation. It would have saved me a lot of time with the Chase claims folks if I had just had a comprehensive list of all the documents that I had uploaded and the exact time that I uploaded them to the website. Obviously, it would have also helped me if I would have had the original receipts because I would have gotten 25% more on my claim. And it would have helped me if at the time that I got the claim settled with American, I would have known that I needed to get a document on American Airlines letterhead stating the items and the amounts that they had approved and what they were denying in my claim. I think my last takeaway, honestly, is that in the future, I'm going to use my Citi Prestige card for any purchases involving travel that I think the insurance might be relevant. At the very least, I'd really like to, well, I wouldn't like to do this again, but if I'm going to go through the process, I'd love to get you guys a firsthand report on how the Citi insurance process differs. Now, I will say this is potentially a very isolated incident. I've also had other claims, and claims also with Chase through the same company that manages their claims that were much, much, much better. So there's always room for outliers and kind of extreme situations. So I'm not going to read too much into this, but I figured that you guys definitely should get the truth and a less rosy picture about what my experience was like filing this claim so that you know what to be prepared for and can evaluate before you get into this whether it's even worth the time to go through the process of filing a claim. Now, I've talked a little bit about how bad the servicing for the insurance is from Chase, but I want to give a little bit of redemption to Chase because I called account services, the folks for the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and explained what was going on with the card benefit claim service. And it was kind of an interesting conversation. So I'm going to actually share a little bit of the audio from some of these calls. Basically, when I started the conversation, I just told the Chase rep what I've explained to you so far, that I had my docs in on January 14th, and that, almost a month later, I think my call to Chase was on February 12th. Let them know that they were still working on this, that they had asked multiple times for the same information. And I was told that, the complaint would be logged. I got a really nice apology from the frontline rep. And so at that point, I took another step and was a lot more explicit that I was looking for compensation in the form of points or money. And somewhat predictably, the Chase rep said this.
Yeah, and I'm very sorry, I'm so sorry for your frustration. I could add the notes to, to the customer, comment list. But as far as points, I'm not allowed to give those out.
Okay. Would it be possible to maybe escalate this up to a supervisor? Like, I don't want you to get in trouble or anything, but, I really think that would be kind of a fair gesture, and maybe somebody else has some other options at their disposal to deal with it.
All right. I'll be happy to get you with a manager.
So, after running through that process, she transfers me to the manager, and it's always really important to remember that lots of times the frontline representatives, the customer service folks for banks and lots of other organizations, are not very well empowered. So I usually like to say something like, hey, I don't want to get you in trouble, but hopefully the supervisor might have some options with respect to compensation, so I'd like to talk to somebody else. I got transferred to the supervisor and made my case for compensation. I've shaved this down a bit just to cut out some of the backstory and personal information, but the important components of this next clip are, number one, referencing the annual fee for the card, especially if you have one of these Chase, Sapphire Reserve, the Prestige, the Amex Platinum with a high annual fee. Remind them that you're paying a lot of money for the benefits that come with the card. Mentioning the other high fee cards that I have, namely the Prestige and the Amex Platinum. And lastly, the history and number of accounts that I have with Chase. And you'll notice that the agent takes some time to look at my accounts and my history with Chase. And that's one reason why it's always a really good idea to maintain an ongoing relationship with at least one card open with all of the major banks that issue points that are valuable. My experience so far, I had an incident that happened with some bags getting damaged at the end of December, filed the claim promptly, had all my documents into them by the 14th of January. Today, I had to make my fourth phone call since then to try and figure out what's going on with the status. These folks have 5 business days published as the turnaround time for somebody to review documents that have been uploaded. And, just to be honest, like a card that has if this were a no-fee card or something like that, it would be different. But, I expect a higher level of service from the folks that you guys partner with. And so I just wanted to see if there was anything that you could do as compensation, because honestly, I've got a Prestige card with Citi and a Platinum card with Amex. I put almost all my travel purchases on my Reserve card with you guys because I like the points. But this has made me really reconsider that, and I wanted to give you guys a chance to try and make it right.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you're going through that with the benefits department. And you are correct; they're not outsourced, but they are a contracted company that we use. Well, technically, it's Visa that we have to use them because they are partnered by Visa or what have you. Mm-hmm. As far as compensation is concerned, I'd be asking the same thing if I was in your shoes. Let me take a look at the account real quick. Not that has anything to do with it, but I just like to see certain things on here.
No, of course. I've been with you guys for, I guess, probably like 7 or 8 years now, and you'll see there's not a lot of records of asking for compensation or anything like this.
Mm-hmm. You definitely do have a lot of cards with us here. You've been a valued customer for a very long time. You are correct that you've been with us for quite a while. So let me just take a look. Now, as far as compensation is concerned, normally we're not able to give anything when it comes to customer service. We do have a little bit of leeway now that they gave that back to us. But as of right now, the most that they're giving that we're able to use is $25 as a compensation. We're working on hopefully getting it higher, but as of right now, that's like the most that anyone can do as far as compensation is concerned, even at a manager's standpoint.
Okay, so I wanted to break into the call here because this is a really typical first response, and I totally believe her about the compensation limit being imposed on managers. Banks tend to be way more stingy with cash compensation. Now, had I said okay here, I would have gotten $25 in value, which is not horrible, but probably not even worth the phone call, except for creating some useful content for you guys. However, instead, I made the suggestion that maybe she could use points instead and suggested 5,000 points, which I figured was probably the most that I was going to be able to get away with.
Is there a way you could do points instead that might be, like could you do 5,000 points or something like that instead?
I can see if I can do, let me see what it'll give to me. Hold on for me, okay? I normally like to just mess with it to see what it would give me. It would be more than points than anything else that I would give back anyway. It wouldn't be able to do like credit or anything like that, but let me see if it'll give it to me. One moment, okay?
Okay. I totally understand you got constraints on your side, but I guess, if you can give some points, I'd probably prefer that over the $25 credit.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it would be 25,000 in points, but let me see if I can do more than that, okay? Hold on for me.
Okay.
See, I'm putting for 5,000, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you doing that for me.
So I ended up getting my 5,000 points. The only other thing that I cut from this clip is where I asked for the rep for her name and ID or location so that I would have something in my record for the call and a record of what I was offered in case for some reason the points didn't post. That's always a good best practice with any call to a bank, but I didn't want to publish information about the agent that I worked with. So bottom line here, instead of $25, I was able to get 5,000 points, which is pretty easily worth $100, even for a points beginner. For me, I think those points will probably end up being worth closer to $150. So it's definitely well worth the call.
My guest today is Michael Schneider from Service, a company that helps you get goodwill compensation from airlines when flights are delayed and also watches hotel reservations to help you rebook at a lower price automatically. Michael, thanks a bunch for coming on the Abroaders podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess can you start out by sharing a little bit about why you decided to try and solve this problem? And, were there any personal experiences that made you wish that Service already existed?
Well, I was actually on an airplane and I was flying on a cross-country flight, and shortly after takeoff, my passenger took out his laptop and started to use it, and the battery was dying, and he tried to plug in, and the power plugs on the plane didn't work. And then he was upset because he had just wasn't going to be able to use the Wi-Fi because he had no power. And I watched him out of the corner of my eyes fill out first a complaint form on gogo.com about the Wi-Fi, and he wanted a refund, and then on A.com, on American, because the power plugs didn't work. And then his laptop died. And it took him about 15 minutes to do that. And I just felt it was a completely inefficient use of his time and really unfair. And I think that in this day and age, consumers should get what they're entitled to without having to work so hard and without companies wasting their time. So that was sort of the genesis of Service, and that's what we're helping do today.
That's really awesome. Tell me a little bit about how this actually works. So I kind of went through the FAQ, and I think I got the basics, but I'm sure you'd do a much better job of explaining. So say I experience a delay or something happens that maybe merits compensation. How do you guys know what happened and what happens next? What's the process look like from the traveler's perspective?
Sure. So we've tried to make it as simple as possible for the traveler. So the first step is you sign up for Service, and in doing so, you give us permission to look into your email to find your flight confirmations. What we do is we then use the data in a flight confirmation email, whether it's from the airline or an online travel agency, it doesn't matter. We will use that to know when you're flying, and we will track that flight. And if that flight is delayed over 90 minutes or it's canceled, we will know about it, and we will automatically file a claim with the airline trying to get you compensation, really without you having to do anything. Our users will get a message saying, so sorry about your delay or so sorry about your cancellation. And we've already filed a claim with the airline, so just sit back and relax, and we'll let you know soon. So it's designed to be very seamless.
Wow, that's really awesome. I know that there's more and more services now that are kind of using the same framework of looking at reservations. I know that's how TripIt runs, Award Wallet, which a lot of our listeners are familiar with for tracking points and miles. So you guys are able to just use that, so I don't have to even tell you when I'm traveling or what my dates are. You can grab the reservations just by seeing confirmation emails, and then you guys check in and make sure my flight actually got out on time and didn't have any delays.
Yeah, that's right. So you can just book how you normally book and go about your life, and just know that there's this special thing looking out for you, and we'll do the right thing when it makes sense without you having to lift a finger.
Awesome. What about if it's something that doesn't necessarily show up in the flight schedule? So like, a situation like where the guy's power port didn't work or your tray table's broken. Is there a way I can hand off some of the legwork of filing that claim by letting you guys know about what happened as far as the experience?
Not today. We used to do any and all claims for anything, and we found that we can best serve our users by focusing on what we do best and what we can automate. So today it's just flight delays and cancellations, along with the hotel products, which we can talk about. We may add other things. Lost bags is something we might be able to automate, and we're looking into that. But we only want to go in areas where we can automatically protect the traveler without them having to submit a complaint.
Okay, that makes sense. Based on your experience so far with airlines, what ones do you think are the most generous or, let's say, fair with goodwill compensation? Are there any that stand out based on your guys' experience with filing claims for travelers?
Yeah, there definitely are. And I'm hesitant to name specific names, but I can tell you that some of the low-cost carriers, which you would expect would be perhaps the cheapest with compensation, are actually the most generous, perhaps because they know that they need to make up for it, because it's really no frills. The mainline carriers are fairly consistent, and it's been that way since the beginning. Some are a little bit more generous than others, but in general, the biggest thing that determines if you're going to get anything is your frequent flyer status. If you have elite status on an airline, you're almost guaranteed to get something, even if that delay is weather related or something outside of their control. They just want to say sorry because you're one of their best customers. It also depends on the class of service that you're flying. So if you're flying business or first, you're more likely to get something than coach. And then it depends on the reason for the delay. If it's something that the airline could have reasonably controlled, they're more likely to give compensation than if it's due to weather or air traffic control.
Okay, yeah, that makes tons of sense. Let's talk a little bit about the hotel price monitoring. So I've got a hotel reservation coming up, let's say with Marriott in New York, and last night while I was asleep, they lowered the price. Same idea with the email. Is that how you guys know that, and how does the rebooking process work?
Yep, that's exactly right. So with that same inbox connection, we now are also looking for hotel confirmation emails. Again, they can be either from the hotel directly or an online travel agency. And we monitor the rate from the time you book almost until the time you check in. The time we stop monitoring the rate is the cancellation deadline.
Okay.
After that deadline, the rate becomes non-refundable and we can't help anyway. And that's usually either the day of arrival up to maybe 48 hours before arrival, something like that usually. And if during that time the rate drops, we check a couple times a day, our software will get you that lower rate. The way it works is we're not canceling anything. We're simply amending your existing booking and getting the hotel to honor the lower rate.
Gotcha. Oh, I was going to ask you about that as far as like, maybe situations where folks had confirmed an upgrade to a suite or something like that in advance. Are you guys able to sort of step around any rebooking that might change, where people are staying in the hotel or stuff like that?
Yes, of course. So in building this, we wanted to be very respectful of people's personal choices and specific rates. So, for example, if you choose a king bed and breakfast included, we're not going to get you a cheaper rate, but it comes with 2 double beds. We're going to only look for king beds with breakfast included.
Sure.
So we look at all those little details and we don't mess with them. Literally, the only thing we change is the price. So our assumption is 100% of people would want the same exact thing for less money.
Absolutely. I imagine the hotels don't exactly love you guys. Have you gotten any pushback? I know you guys don't work at least at the moment, don't do anything as a booking engine for the original reservations. Have any of the hotels given you guys trouble for kind of disrupting their pricing model?
Not yet. It's early days. The hotel product's been live at this point for less than 2 weeks. But our goal is to work with hotels, believe it or not. It's not to just cost them money. It's to help them engender more loyalty and really create a situation that's more modern. I don't think it's a good situation where the hotel is simply hoping that you never bump into your neighbor sitting in the room next to you. And if you guys compare notes, what'd you pay, and if the rate is different, someone's upset. I don't think that's a good setup. I don't think it's tenable long-term in today's environment. And so we want to help the hotels with that. There's also a lot of politics between online travel agencies and hotels. Mm-hmm. And so anything that hotels can do to encourage direct booking is going to be good for them. Not only do they save on the commission, but they establish a direct relationship with the traveler. And so we think we can be a part of that and help them out.
That's great. I know that, most hotels have a best rate guarantee anyways. And the big thing is that can be a real challenge to, kind of the same thing as with airline delays. It can just be a real process to go through and file a claim if you booked the hotel and found out that there's a better rate somewhere else. So, that's something that at least publicly the hotels say, they're offering you the best rate on their site. One final question about kind of the booking process. If folks book directly through the hotel, do you only include the rates from the hotel's website? So say Orbitz or somebody else that's an online travel agency has a lower price for the exact same room. Do you guys ever do anything that would rebook people through a different, platform than the original booking?
Today, we're not channel switching. So Today, if you booked on Orbitz, we're only going to monitor Orbitz. If you book on Sheraton, we're only going to monitor Sheraton. Channel switching is a highly political thing, and you're going to make enemies quickly. And we just want to think through it. We want to figure out how we can A, do what's best for the consumer. That's our main focus. But B, be a really good partner in the industry. And so before we dip our toe in that water, we want to get our bearings first, just with the basic product.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I imagine it would complicate your business and your relationship with the customers a lot too, because many of the hotels have moved away from allowing elite status benefits to count for, the hotel stay itself to count towards qualifying, or for you to get some of the benefits that would come because you have elite status already when you book through third parties. So I would imagine that could make things a lot more complicated if the particular customer of yours, cares a lot about those benefits and wants to make sure that the hotel booking is done directly.
Yeah, that's totally true. I experienced that myself. Despite me owning a technology company that does a lot in travel, I didn't pay close attention and didn't realize that I wasn't going to get my elite benefits when I booked a Starwood hotel through an OTA. Yep. And got a really rude awakening when I didn't earn nights for that. I wasn't upgraded complimentary like I normally am. So that is a powerful weapon that the hotels have, and we would never want to save someone money, but take away what they really care about, which is their elite benefits.
Yeah, well, I definitely really dig the approach of you guys kind of taking your time and getting your bearings. And congrats on getting that launched. That must be very exciting to just have that up and running in the last couple of weeks.
Thank you. Yes, we're very excited. Our users are responding really positively to it. And so we're excited to see what the future brings.
Awesome. Well, so real quick, I wanted to kind of run through the pricing options as well. I really liked how you guys did this. I imagine the pricing probably took quite a bit of testing and experimentation. But is there still 2 options where you can either pay a flat annual rate or pay a percentage of the commissions on kind of a as needed basis?
That's correct. So there's 2 options, and I'll tell you about a guarantee we just added yesterday for the annual option. The first option is you pay 30% of whatever we get you from the airlines or whatever we save you on hotels. So no charge up front, no risk at all. You're only paying something if we get you something, and we charge your credit card 30% to whatever we're getting you or saving you. Mm-hmm. Option number 2, and it's really popular with frequent travelers, is a $49 a year annual subscription that's paid up front. So you pay us $49. We do all the work on both the flight and hotel booking side for a year, and we have other products we're going to add over time as well. And you keep 100% of what we save you and 100% of what we get you from the airlines, and there's no cut. And yesterday, we just added what we call the service promise, which is if for some reason you pay that $49 and after 12 months we haven't gotten you at least $49 of value from either flights or hotels or a combination, we will extend your subscription at no charge until we do. We have a lot of faith in our software and in our product, and we only want to make sure that people are paying into something they're going to get more value out of. And so that's something we added yesterday.
Man, that's really cool. And, seems like as long as you travel, relatively often, a few times a year, it seems like would be pretty easy to be able to get cover that $49. And it's great to have the other option if you don't travel a lot. But, I don't know, for me, I always seem to get haunted by some sort of delay scenario. So, I think that maybe if I wasn't traveling a ton, the 30% might be a good option. So I really like that you guys have both, and the guarantee is a super nice thing too. If you're willing to give it a try for $49, you're going to at least save that before you guys are going to ask for any more money. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. We want to give the customer choice, and we also want to make sure they get value. So that's why we did it.
So I got just a couple more questions for you. One of them, we're a points and miles focused podcast, so I thought it was kind of interesting that a lot of times compensation is awarded in the form of points, and that you guys have on your FAQ that you use the points guys valuation. How did you guys settle on that? And can you tell me a little bit, like, do miles happen often? Is it usually vouchers? Kind of what's the breakdown of compensation?
Yeah, so it's about 70-30 vouchers to miles. So the majority of the time when an airline gives compensation, they give a voucher that's good towards a future purchase. It's usually good for a year on most airlines. But roughly a third of the time, they do give miles. And if they decide to give miles, they deposit those miles directly into your frequent flyer account. We use the points guide because we found that to be the most fair and reliable, since it's updated every month, value of frequent flyer miles. And so we didn't want to just pick an arbitrary number ourselves. We wanted to pick something that's a third party and that's updated frequently as benefits change.
Yeah, I think that's a really good framework to use. I think Points Guy is pretty conservative on the valuation, so it's advantageous to your clients that maybe don't have quite as much experience using miles. And so I know that often when folks earn big bonuses of award miles, the credit card ones don't work like this. But if you ever win a contest or you get awarded frequent flyer miles that are sort of something that you win, the IRS is really brutal about the valuations, and you often have to fight because they say that the miles are worth a ton more. So I thought that was really refreshing that you guys used the points guy rather than the IRS, and kind of the standardized version of the miles seems like a really fair place to find a compromise.
We have no plans to switch to the IRS source for the value of frequent flyer miles.
Yeah, they're not nearly as popular. I think that's probably good PR as well. Right on. Yeah. I guess last up, you guys are coming up on your 3-year anniversary. Is that right? Yeah,
this June will be 3 years.
Anything that you can share about what's next? I know you guys just rolled something out, so maybe you guys haven't even really started planning too much further ahead. But what are the big challenges coming up, or what are your goals for the rest of this year?
So we want to keep adding value wherever it makes sense, with that same trust that our users have given us with the connection to their inbox. And so we're going to stay focused on travel. There's other areas of travel that are interesting to us and where we think we can apply the same methodology. So we're first working on not only getting hotel products running really smoothly, but also adding other chains that we don't support today, additional rate types, et cetera. So basically expanding the product. But we have other plans that'll be released in the next few months for additional products to keep saving people money. So another way I can put it is that $49 a year subscription is going to become a better and better value over time.
Awesome. Michael, thanks very much for sharing this with us. The website is getservice.com. I definitely recommend it. I hope, I'm sure a lot of our listeners, we got a ton of folks that travel a lot. So hopefully we can send some folks your way and they can start getting some compensation without all the hassle and all the work. Thanks a bunch for coming on and sharing a little bit about your story.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Broaders, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Eric or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.